Well, hello, good evening. Welcome, everybody. It's John Ashby here on behalf of the Exhibition Budgerigar Forum. This is our October 2020 live interview. So the usual time of 8 o'clock on the second Sunday of the month. Apologies for being slightly late this evening. We've had a few technical difficulties, so our IT guru has been beavering away behind the scenes trying to fix those. So I gather we are live and broadcasting. So yeah, this is interview number 6, and we're really delighted tonight to be able to bring you another interview with another very experienced fancier who's been around for many years in the hobby. He's also a long-standing member of the Exhibition Budgerigar Forum, which is one of the other main considerations for inviting him on this evening. Yeah, so without further ado, Mike Simpson, hello and welcome.
Hello, John. Thank you very much. Good to see you, and hello to everybody watching.
Lovely. Thanks for joining us, Mike. How's your weekend been?
Pretty good. Good day today. Nice and sunny up here.
Excellent.
The birds were all chirping away and making a hell of a noise when I was in the aviary this afternoon. And of course, England have won the football. So up to now, everything is fine.
We'll try and keep it that way. No, I'm glad the birds are doing well, and I'm glad it stopped raining as well. Yeah, down here in Watford, it's been really pleasant as well. So I'm glad we've all had a taste of it. So you've been in the hobby for many years. How many years has it been?
Well, that's a difficult question, John, because I've had a massive break in between. So I first joined the hobby in 1978, and then I carried on through till about 1990, when work took me away from the hobby, and rejoined again in 2012. So a massive gap in between, and things have changed a lot during that time as well. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, just so everyone's got a good idea of your background, tell us about your initial time in the hobby. How did you get into the budgerigars? That's I'm always interested to know people's backstory in that regard.
Okay, so as I said, it was 1978. I just graduated, so I was looking for something to do really. I got a job. A full-time job, and settled with it, and it was in our shed in the garden, and we got a second-hand shed, and on the door, on the inside of the door, there was a Cage and Aviary bird poster of budgerigars, and within my mother's side of the family, there was a history of relatives who'd been involved in canaries and pigeons and one thing or another. And I thought, I might get budgerigars again. And in the local newspaper, within a short period of time, there was an advert for budgerigars for sale. And I phoned this number, and who should answer but a guy called Terry Jukes. And Terry and I had known each other from school days. We used to play football together on a very regular basis. So it was just sheer coincidence that happened. And I went down to Terry's, got my first birds off him. I got this small 8-foot by 6-foot shed, which I put a flight in one end, and I can't remember exactly how many breeding cages now, but not many, as you can imagine. And that's how I started off. I got involved with a local cage bird society called Harrisey Head Cage Bird Society at the north of Stoke-on-Trent. I think it's wrapped up now, but it was one of the longest cage bird societies that's been in existence. It was only a couple of years ago, I think it finished. But I got involved with them, and there was a judge for the budgerigars section that came to that cage bird society by the name of Joe Davis. And Joe was from Crewe, and he invited me down to look at his bird. And I was amazed, really, when I went into his bird room, or his shed at that time. It was just full of sky blues. No, nothing else, just sky blue budgerigars. Just a magnificent sight. And Joe told me that all his stock was based upon the famous blues of Derek Bowley, who was Jeff Bowley's father.
Okay.
And so I got some birds off Joe. I'd already had some off Terry, and away we went from there. Obviously, I was competing in beginners at that time. Even in those days, Stoke-on-Trent's a tough area to compete in today. It was a tough area to compete in also back in those times. But I did okay in beginners, winning the beginner section at local shows. And I also supported the area shows. Now, Stoke is right on the border between Midland Budgerigar Association and the Lancashire and Cheshire Budgerigar Society. So I used to support both of those area shows. And in my final year as a beginner, I showed at the NBA area show and was fortunate enough to win Best Beginner Breeder, which is young bird in our technology now, or however you call it, but it was breeder then, and won the light green CC. So that was a fantastic day. You know.
And what was the entry at that year? Do you know roughly? Can you remember?
I don't know exactly, but in those days, if you take it, the BS Club Show was around about 5,000 exhibits. Then I think the area shows must have been close to 2,000. Close to 2,000 birds. So yeah, that was a start. Moved through into novice then. Again, locally, held my own. Nothing special, but I was still going to Terry and Linda Dukes and bringing out crosses in from there. I didn't go back to Joe Davis, and I can't really remember why. There was nothing wrong with the birds he gave me, and they seemed to blend in well. I guess it was just the case of I was getting what I needed from Terry and Linda at the time, and so we moved through novice, and Terry and Linda and myself became really, really good friends over that time. And we tended to do everything budgerigar wise together. Went the same places, went the same shows. We were just always together. And so I guess the inevitable happened, that we formed a partnership, and Dukes and Simpson partnership was formed. In those days, we used to try and bring out crosses in from successful people, and there was plenty of successful people in and around this area, but we tried to go a little bit further out to bring something perhaps a bit different in. And we used to go regularly to Havenhand and Ludford, who'd won the club show on 2 occasions. And going to Bill Ruthven's at Sheffield was always a great day out. We used to talk, or Bill used to talk to us for hours. We'd be in his house for about an hour before we could even get in the bird room. He'd just go on and on. But he was a great guy. And that helped us. Those birds helped us. And Don Havenand and Bill Ruthven's birds were based on Alf Ormerod birds, who was a great fancier in his time, one of the true competitors of Harry Bryan, I guess you could say. And then we had a slice of luck, because we'd known a guy called Mike Peters. Mike Peters was originally around the Manchester area, and he moved down to Devon. And we've been friendly with Mike, and we got the opportunity to buy Mike Peters' stud. It wasn't a big stud, but it was based on Alf Ormerod birds, and they were all cinnamons. Cinnamon light greens, cinnamon skies, nothing but cinnamons.
How many birds were we talking there, Mike, roughly?
Just under 70.
Okay, a good number then.
Yeah. And we paid the grand sum of £1,000 for those birds.
And what year was that, roughly?
Where will we be now? Probably about 84, 85, something around that time. And we went down to Devon, and Terry and I brought these birds back in the back of Terry's car. We never lost the bird. We got them all back safe and sound to Stoke. And those, coupled with the stock that we'd already got, as I say, Bill Ruthven birds off Alf Ormerod, they really knitted well together. And in 1988 it was, when Budgerigar World were demonstrating how shows should be run.
Is this down Sandown Park, is it? Down?
It wasn't this one, actually. It was done at a place called Norbreck Castle Hotel in Blackpool.
Ah, okay.
And we went up there and had the most fantastic weekend. Brilliant socially. The show hall, the hotel, the facilities were excellent. And we came away with best opposite sex young bird in show.
Brilliant.
And I don't remember too much about the weekend after that, actually. I was probably propping the bar up too much, but
quite right as well. Fantastic.
It was a good win for us, no doubt.
Was that the first Budgerigar World show? Because there was there were 3, weren't there? Is that right, or were there more?
It wasn't the first one. I think the first one was at Sandown. This one was at Blackpool, and then there was another one certainly at Trenton Gardens in Stoke. There may have been another one at Sandown as well. I can't remember.
I know there was the infamous flamingo one at Sandown Park.
Yeah.
Whenever I drive past it with Kevin Pester, he always says there was flamingos. There was flamingos. But yeah. That sounds like wonderful time. And like huge shows as well. Trying to. I know we get good numbers at the club show relatively now, but 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 birds must have been out of this world. Fantastic.
Oh, it was tremendous, and especially in a good show hall as well. And as I say, the show was really excellently run, and good time was had by all. Brilliant.
Yeah. But you've kind of suggested there you enjoy the social element to it. I mean, that is a big part of the hobby, isn't it? I've sort of covered this with some of my other interviews, and I think it's important that perhaps new people in the fancy do really try and embrace as much as they can that side, because that's half the fun, really, isn't it? Win, lose or draw. It's would you not agree?
It is, John. And also during that time, I had become show secretary for Lancashire Area Society, and you know, the Lancashire Show was a fantastic event. It was a 2-day event at Winsford City Hall in Cheshire, and there was a bar attached, and the banter both in the hall and in the bar was tremendous. You know, it was really, really good fun. Loads of leg pulling. How many mistakes have you made today, then, Mike? You know, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's socially, it is important.
Brilliant.
Even
so at that
origin.
Sorry, so at that time, I mean, what is your kind of bird room size? So you talked about the shed with the poster. Yeah. So how did that evolve? I'm just trying to get a picture in my head of the birds are getting better, you're beginning to win, and as the shed's obviously evolved.
Yeah. So when I was a beginner, obviously the 8-foot with 6-foot shed soon became too small, and myself and a guy down the road who was a joiner, we built a shed, 16 foot by 8 foot or 10 foot, I can't remember now, and made cages out of this melamine sheet materials that you can get from B&Q and what have you, and bought cage fronts, and we used to have 2 flights, one for cocks, one for hens at that time. In vogue was to keep cocks and hens separate and only bring them together during the breeding season. But when I got into partnership with Harry and Linda, we got some friends in the Manchester area, one of which was a guy called Vinnie Clark, and he worked in the construction industry. And a side hook became available, wooden side hook. Now you're going to ask me how big this side hook was, and I don't know exactly, but maybe getting on for 30 feet by 12.
Lovely.
Something like that. It was a massive operation to get that shed to us and get it erected. You talk about the social side of the hobby. Even doing something like that, which we did over quite a long weekend, we had some laughs in doing that.
And lots of people pitched in to help today, and
yeah. But we always had people coming around and lots of that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's that. At that point, that's giving you a couple of flights. How many breeding cages are you running at that point?
Well, with tennis cages and man cages, I suppose we're up to around about 40 cages, something of that nature. But the flights were much bigger. The birds could fly around. We didn't use outside flights, and I've never used outside flights. So these were internal to the bird room.
You've never noticed any. You don't think your birds have ever struggled purely in indoor flights? You're not.
I wouldn't say so. Obviously, I don't know of a difference because I've never used the indoor flights. I am conscious that sunshine is important, and I do pay attention to making sure that they get vitamin D as a supplement.
Okay.
Because
so if your flights at the minute, actually, I'm jumping ahead of myself there. Sorry. So you've got it's 30 by, was it 15 shed? Right. Okay. Sorry. And so at that point, did you kind of drop out of the hobby shortly after that, or?
Yeah, it was about either 1989 or early 1990. My career was moving on by that time, and I had to make a choice of moving that career on by moving away from the area or not. And obviously, I did choose my career, and we dissolved the partnership very amicably, and no money changed hands. But I said to Terry and Linda that if ever I started up again, the deal was that they would give me some birds to get me off the ground again.
Lovely. Well, it's nice when there's no money involved. And so, do you mind if I ask you what you do for a living? Or you did for a living? What's your background? Was that am I prying too far there?
No, I don't mind. I started off as a railway engineer, but for probably the last 20 years of my career, it was in the private sector on engineering to do with railways, roads, buildings, any infrastructure really. So largely construction in particular. And I retired as a divisional managing director for a consultancy, engineering and management consultancy company.
So you've had a very successful career at a high level then.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I learned a lot about running businesses, starting businesses, saving businesses. It became less and less of an involvement for me. It was more about getting the organisation profitable and looking after the people that work for me.
Absolutely brilliant. Oh, fantastic! It sounds really interesting. So that's obviously taken you all over the place.
Yes.
So you've obviously moved away, and then you've obviously come back. When did you've moved back? Because you're sort of close to where you were before, weren't you?
That's right. So when I retired in 2013, and so the year before I retired, I started planning what I was going to do with retirement, and budgies came back on the scene straight away into my head. I want some birds, and based in York, I spent the first year just visiting shows, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. I could not believe the budget as of 2012 compared to the budget of 1990. It was like a different species. It was huge, and the feather on it. So, you know, when they say visit shows to get your eye in, it was certainly that for me, because I didn't recognise these birds.
Did it put you off in any way? That did you prefer the new modern budgie, or what was your initial thoughts on it?
I preferred the new modern budgie.
Okay.
I like the feather on it, and particularly I think it was Castleford show. And the birds that were winning the specials there weren't extreme budgies. They were still stylish birds, and even today, it's what I like in a bird. I don't like birds lying all over the perch, no matter how big their head is or how much feather they've got. If they haven't got that style, balance, shape, and deportment, I don't like those birds. But at Castleford, and other shows around York. The winners generally were big birds with plenty style. And I got introduced to Jeff Moore.
Okay.
And Jeff was the secretary of York Budgerigar Society. And I started going to the meetings there. And Jeff let me have 1 or 2 birds. He was a top guy. You know, he would do anything for me to help me. And he took me to Tom and Andrew Luke, across at Preston. And I liked those birds of Tom and Andrew. I also liked Tom, which helps.
It does.
I was fortunate enough to be able to acquire a number of pairs to start off with. Of course, I'd also picked the phone up and given Terry and Linda Gibbs a call and said, "Hey, remember 30 years ago?"
And had they?
They had.
Good.
And so they helped me out to start off. They gifted me a few pairs. Teddy was quick to point out to me that inflation was astronomical over those 30-year period. So you know what I was getting was some good birds that prices he would normally charge others maybe. I was getting them for nothing, so I was getting a bargain. And that was true. I was getting a bargain. So with Terry and Linda's birds, the odd 1 or 2 off Jeff Moore, and a few pairs off Tom Luke, we started again in 2013.
Okay, so what version did you start with then? What did you?
So I lived in a modern house, and the problem with modern houses is that usually back gardens are quite small.
Yeah.
And this was no exception. So I ended up with a bird room of 15 foot long by 7 feet wide. That was over 7 feet wide. And in there, I managed to fit 16 breeding cages. I have them built specially for me to my specification in terms of the sizes that I could fit. And they were made for me by BJS of Worcester, so the plastic cages. And I had 1 long flight, probably getting on for 11 foot long by 3 foot wide. It was a half flight.
Okay.
Because what I noticed in going to various people's bird rooms, either on arranged private visits or on neighbour visits, the modern bird was spending a lot of time on the floor. And I'd like to see the birds. I find it difficult, especially when I'm 6 foot tall, 6'4" to be exact, and peering down at birds just hopping around the flight floor. So to raise them up off the floor enabled me to appreciate the birds better, and it provided me some storage space underneath. So that's how we got started with it.
And how did those sort of formation birds go for you? Did you find that you had some real instant success with them? Did they click immediately, or it took a couple of years?
The first breeding season was very good. I can't remember exactly. I think about 50. I've bred about 50 youngsters, and they weren't bad. They were okay. There was one grey cock that was particularly nice, Unfortunately, it happened to be one where after it had gone through its first molt, it dropped its tail feathers and it never regrew those tail feathers. But, you know, I guess that is one of the things with the modern bird and the amount of feather it's got. Those sort of things we didn't experience in the 1980s through to 1990. The bird was much more yellow in feather, and certainly didn't have the feather problems of the modern day.
But you never experienced cysts or, you know, tailless wonders or flecking to too much of a high degree like we've got now. That was
no, not at all.
Yeah, lots of full clutches of 6 and lots of full nests of babies back in the day. I said they bred a lot easier as well back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. It's much tougher to breed what is now.
Yeah,
with the budget of today than it was then. No doubt about it. It's harder work.
Did that come as a bit of a shock to you that, you know, there were all these sort of added pitfalls now you had to kind of sort of factor in when pairing up and buying stock and retaining it?
The feather problem came a bit of a shock because I've not really understood that it had been discussed much. But it was a shock, and it was obviously a disappointment if you breed a bird that you think's a bit special and it goes on to drop its tail and not regrow it. I think also feather issues and things like I think you call them tailless wonders earlier, didn't you? You mentioned.
Yeah.
I feel you've got to be particularly careful with those sorts of birds, especially when you've only got a small stock. I think that it is genetic or partly genetic in makeup, and I'm very reluctant to use a tailless wonder now. I prefer to give it away than use it because I'm so concerned about having that popping out all over the place with just a small stud.
It is. Is it? Do you think these kind of problems we don't make them clear enough to beginners when they come into the hobby? I was wondering this the other day. You know, it's something you kind of learn as you go along, don't you? Because generally the stock people start off with is quite small and perhaps easier to breed with, isn't the top end. But yeah, do you think you need to be more honest about that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's a lack of honesty. I think that if you go to somewhere and somebody's got some birds to sell, and you pick one that you want to buy and it's got half a wing missing or no tail, then if you're first starting out, I think people would say, certainly the people I go to would say.
But not everyone goes to a breeder though, do they? So if you went to a pet shop or you go to an auction or something, you know, which new fanciers perhaps do, you know, they tend to buy birds from all over the place. I just wondered whether it's you know, some of the information we're giving to newbies that we say, you know, these are a few key things you want to kind of try and avoid.
Yeah, that sort of information would be good.
Oh, sorry, one sec. We got a bit of background interference. Is that our techno wizardry person with his telly on? Can you hear me all right, Mike?
I think it's our techno person.
It is, yeah. He's got his telly on in the background. I don't think anyone else can hear it, but we can. So we've okay. So you're pootling along. You've bred 50 or 60 in your first year. What How did you get on in the next couple of years? Were the numbers still good? And
Well, what happened next was I did retire from work. My father passed away,
oh no,
so we had no relatives in or around York, and our daughter was pestering us to move back to Stoke because it'd be great to have you here. I could look after you in your old age and all this sort of stuff. And that's what we decided to do. So we did move back to Stoke. So this bird room that I had specifically designed and the cages made to fit it stayed what it was in York. And we moved to a house in Stoke, and I got a bigger garden there. So I bought an 18-foot by 9-foot bird room, and obviously took the cages that had been made by DJS and put those in there, and had a reasonably decent first season there. But the story is never simple in my life, and when we'd been looking for a house in Stoke, we'd been to a village called Road Heath, which is where I'm actually living now. And we liked the area, but we just couldn't find the house. So we bought a house somewhere else. I set up another bird room, and then the house that would suit us in Road Heath came on the market, and we went and bought that. So I now ordered another bird room. And the one I've got now is the one I intend to stick with because we're settled here now. We're not intending to move around anymore. And it's a 16-foot by 8 bird room. I've got 2 half whites in it, 2 meters long, 1 meter high, just over 2 foot wide on either side of the door. And I was concerned about the corridor, the width I'd have in the corridor.
Mhm.
And I considered this and thought, well, it would be better if I didn't have the nest boxes on the outside of the cages. It would be really good if the nest boxes were inside the cage. And I can't remember exactly what it was. But I got in conversation with Graham Turner up at the pub show, and Graham told me about some cages that he just had because he was fitting out a new bird room that he was going to dedicate to his red eyes, his lucinos and albinos. And he bought these cages off Sam Wiles. And Sam operates as part of this company. I think they're either called DTV or DVT Plastics.
DTV, yeah, DTV.
Plastics. And so I went and had a discussion with Sam. And I ordered these cages off Sam. And when I got them, they were absolutely fabulous. The best cages I've ever come across. The engineering on them is terrific. Attention to detail in terms of making sure there's not gaps all over the place for Mike to be in or whatever. Really terrific. And as I say, the nest boxes, plastic nest boxes, just slide into the cage, and you can slide them out again. And there's like a cage door that that comes down. So when the cages aren't in use for breeding, they make really good stock cages as well.
Are yours designed where you can just pull them out and take them out and wash them outside, or are they?
Yep.
How do you stack them?
So the cages themselves, I don't actually take them outside, but they came as like double breeders, and so I've got 3 double breeders stacked on top of each other, and another 3 double breeders sitting by the side of those. So they're what I call my 12 primary breeding cages. Sitting alongside those, I've got some stock cages that I brought from my last aviary, which were made by BJS, and they are double cages, about 5 foot long, and I've got 4 of those. So in the bird room in total, I've got 16 cages at the moment, but I only, well, so far, I've only ever used a maximum of 12 pairs in them.
And for beginners, what's the optimum? What is the best number for? So forget. I think I've asked people before. You know, what in an ideal world, but in the standard world, what would you say for a normal guy would be, or girl would be, a good number to start with that isn't going to overburden people too much in terms of time and cleaning out? What is it? Would you say 16 is a good number? Would you, in hindsight, have a few more? Or
I'm very happy with what I've decided to do now. It's not an overburden to after them. You know, I'm retired now, so people say you've got all the time in the world. Well, I'll tell you, retirement's not like that. You don't have all the time in the world. There's lots of demands, particularly from family, that come your way. And so right now I've got about 50 birds. That's fine for me, and my 12 breeding cages. That I find very easy to manage because you don't want it to become a chore, do you? There's nothing worse than it becoming a chore. You want to enjoy your time down there, and I don't want to be spending all my time down there cleaning stuff out or taking things apart and taking them outside and pressure washing them or that sort of stuff. So to me, I got started with 8 pairs in 2013, and that's probably a good number, I'd say, to start with, because you need some noise. I think, you know, perhaps only having 5 pairs is too few, but a minimum of 8 pairs I would.
okay, that's because, you know, I still think, you know, we did again when we sell the hobby to people. You know, I talked earlier about, you know, providing new fancies with information about birds to try and avoid, trying to help fancies not have to make certain mistakes, you know, by buying birds that are flightless, etc., and maybe pointing them in the right direction. But equally as well, I think what you've just said about keeping the hobby simple, not overburdensome, and, you know, so it is fun and enjoyable, but yet not too small that the birds don't breed and you haven't got enough feeders or fosters. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm interested that you think that 12, 16 is the optimum number, and I think it's fair to say as well, isn't it? From a lot of people I've spoken to over the years, they will pretty much to a man say that, you know, they all know fanciers who are doing really, you know, there's been some terrific fanciers over the years, who have constantly turned out really good birds with very small setups. You don't have to have 80 breeding cages and pots of cash, and people are doing good things and being very successful with quite modest setups.
That's true, but if you have got 80 breeding cages and lots of pots of cash,
it helps.
It helps.
Yeah.
And that was one of the great things about being in partnership. You know, the fact you could pool resources like that.
Mm.
I'm not saying we've got pots and pots of cash, but we haven't. But to be able to pool resources and so have a good number of birds to select from was a really strong part of the partnership. And something I miss really.
Yeah. With your birds now, do you how many cock birds do you keep? Are you literally 12 or 13 with 12 birds with a couple of spare cocks, or what ratio of birds do you keep out of that 50?
So the target as a minimum target is 24 hens and 16 cocks.
Okay.
So as I say, I'm a bit above that at the moment, but that would be the absolute minimum for me. So I've got 2 hens per breeding cage, a cock for every breeding cage, plus a few spares. And
then you're super ruthless when you sort out, is that right? When you go.
I wish I was, John.
That's easier said than done, isn't it? I know.
It's easier said than done. But yeah, I think it's important to be, particularly with the cocks. I think you've got to give yourself leeway on the hens, because it's a matter of having enough hens. So don't be too ruthless in reducing the number of hens you've got, I'd say. But I think it is good practice to be quite ruthless on the when it comes down to the cocks. Yeah.
And with hens, how do you with all the birds? How long do they stay in your bird room? Do you keep them for 2-3 years and then move them on, or is there some that, if you've got some cocks that are older than that you just keep using, or is there a process? Or
at the moment, I haven't got any birds older than 3 years old.
Okay.
So I tend to move them on at that stage. I usually find the hens are better producers in year 1 and year 2. I also think you've got to guard against using hens before they are sufficiently mature enough. And I've been tempted once or twice to try that. It's not particularly ended well.
No.
You know, you could waste a good hen, and you can see if you're struggling. She might lay 1 egg, so you put her back in the flight to rest. You could have ruined that hen, just for the sake of waiting a few months.
Well, you think they never breed if you try and start them too early? That they're never.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you run the risk of that.
Yeah.
And why run that risk just for the sake of a few months? Let them.
Absolutely. And what's your kind of standard? When do you breed from, Mike? Is there again a set pattern, or are you a summer breeder or you're a winter breeder? What do you try and breed to?
Because I've moved so often over the past 5 years, it's been a case of breed when I can.
Okay.
So I think it's not this past breeding season. The breeding season before was an absolute nightmare. I was doing some changes to the bird room and trying to get the birds to breed virtually at the same time, and they just weren't having anything at all. And I think, yeah, it was. The breeding season before last, out of my 12 pairs, I ended up with 10 chicks. That was it. That's
wow.
That's all I had. It was so bad. This last time, I paired up at the end of January. So I was sort of in the period where we were starting to get worried about coronavirus in the March of this year, and I stopped the birds after one round because I didn't know if I would be able to get rid of surplus stock.
Okay.
I just didn't know what was going to happen, and the last thing I wanted was a shed full of birds getting stressed out. So I stopped it, and I bred 37 birds in the first round off those 12 pairs, which I'd normally be quite happy with that sort of number.
And have you started again? You going again now? Have you just finished that? Have you been stopped the whole time?
So I've been stopped since the end of March, and I'm tempted to start putting some pairs down probably in the next few weeks. I mentioned to you when we first came on here, I was down in the aviary this afternoon, and the birds are showing signs of being ready. So they should dictate to us when it's
absolutely,
not us dictate to them.
Absolutely. And obviously we've got that earlier ring date to aim for now. So
well, that's true. Yes. Rings are all big sub-repaid. Yes.
Yeah. So now's the time. So you talked about some of the benefits of being in a partnership. Obviously, I suppose if you lose a couple of key birds, a couple of key cockbirds, you can go and borrow one, can't you, and swap. And was there anything with a partnership people should try and avoid, and maybe little rules that they should sort of shake on before they start in a partnership? Or you've obviously had a really harmonious and a great friendship with the Dukes. Was there something that you guys kind of pre-agreed that we weren't going to do this, but we'll do that, and these are the kinds of terms and conditions of the partnership? Is there any good advice you can share?
Not really. There's some leg pulling in terms of Terry being the sort of guy he is. It's right, well, I'm paying everything up, and then you and Linda can just say whether you agree with it or whether you don't. But it was never like that. We listen to each other, and there's no doubt that 3 heads are better than 1. Sometimes it can cause you some confusion because it's easier to make your own personal mind up about anything. But the overall benefit, I think, is things that you miss, somebody else might spot, and that's really good. I looked after all the money. That was my role.
Okay.
So I was treasurer for the partnership. But for any partnership to work, it's got to be down to trust. If there isn't total trust in the partnership, it's not going to work. So you can't just cobble anything together in a partnership. You can have what I call maybe a pseudo partnership, where actually you're operating as 2 separate ventures, really, but you cooperate with each other in terms of exchanging birds and helping each other out. But the partnership between myself, Terry and Linda Dukes was much more than that. It was a proper, full-blown partnership, and no, we didn't come up with a set of rules. We got along. Sometimes we'd fall out. Nothing serious, but we got along and did what we did.
But that trust is obviously is key. And when you bought birds as well, was it? Did you combine your monies and buy a bird and then share it, or did you?
Yeah.
Or did so any sales birds and money went in a pot and then you just bought together, or did you bought a bird and the Dukes bought a bird and then you sort of swap? How did that work? Is that because I can imagine that would cause problems where, say, we chuck in 300 quid each as a arbitrary figure. Who has the bird first? Because it might not breed again in the second year. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. So what you've got to remember about the setup that we had, particularly during the latter part of the partnership, we had this big habit, this 30-foot, 12-foot habit. So I didn't have any birds at my property.
Yeah.
They all at Terry and Linda's place. So it wasn't a matter of swapping birds between sheds. That never came into it. So when we were buying in outcrossing, we'd go together, the three of us, and we would discuss the bird before we bought it to make sure that we were all happy with it. And that's the way we did it. When it came to sorting out what birds we were prepared to let go, we did it together and put them in the sales cages. I don't even remember us saying, well, those are 50 quid or those are 30. I don't think things were as rigid as that. It depended who was coming. If it was somebody just starting out, they'd pay us some money for some birds, but we just as easily give them some as well to get them
going. And when you buy birds in, have you had your best successes getting a really good outcrossing, say, and just running it with a good hen and it's breeding and just keeping it down, or do you try and spread it across a number of hens as quickly as you can? What's been most successful for you, would you say?
We've always kept a pair together. We've not then used that flock with lots of other hens. That applied when we were in partnership, and we've got the setup that we had. This is hearsay, so I can't say it's absolute truth, but during the time that I was out of the hobby, Penny and Linda went and bought some birds off Joe Mann's.
Okay.
And there was a particular bird that they bought. I think that I wouldn't say kept it breeding all the time, but not far off. And that was the foundation of many of our birds today. With myself, I'm a smaller scale breeder. As I say, I like to fill those 12 breeding cages, and I fill those 12 breeding cages with what I think is the most suitable, compatible cocks and hens. And I try and stick with that pair. I will only change it if, say, they go clear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't normally let them have another try. I usually change the head.
Okay. Okay. And do you with your stud, your best cock bird, do you try and move eggs off of him, or when he's laying them, or every cage is just working on their
every cage works on their own.
Yeah.
I think it depends. It depends how driven you are, I guess, in terms of increasing the chances of breeding that really good bird.
Yeah.
You see, I could quite easily move eggs away from, say, my best cock, whatever pair that is, put them under another hen, and they all have it. That is as much of a chance, I think, than just leaving them and letting them get on with it. So
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I'm doing it the right way. I'm doing it the way that I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the general advice. People finding their own way and what works for them, and then just going with it. It's and moving eggs is one of those things. Some people seem really adept and happy to do, and others. And I'm the same. I'm in the same category as how you just described it. I hate moving eggs. If I move eggs, they seem to addle. So I tend to just leave well enough alone as well, and perhaps move a few chicks here and there. But it's yeah, okay. Yeah. That's really interesting. Very insightful. So with your show preparation, can you just talk us through that very quickly? What's your routine leading up to a show, please?
So, personally, I've never claimed to be a great showman. I get most of my enjoyment out of the breeding side rather than the showing side, but I do show. So, pretty standard in as much as 6 to 8 weeks before the show, I'll select the show team, cage them separately, cocks in one, double breeder, hens in the other. I look to give them more oats to put a bit of weight on them, and I do spray them with warm water. I don't go as far as to put baby shampoo in. I just spray them, not every day, maybe every couple of days. And a couple of days before the show, I'll look to spot the birds out and make sure the show cages are in good condition and smart. You know, I like to put birds out in decent show cages, and then off we go, and fingers crossed, and hope everything goes well.
Okay. So you keep it nice and simple.
Everything I do, I try to keep nice and simple.
Yeah. Okay. So with nest boxes, what have you had the most success in, wooden or plastic? Out of interest, what do you prefer?
So I like the plastic ones. I like them because they're so easy to clean. I've had really good success in plastic nest boxes, but with wooden concave.
Okay.
With the ones I've had from Sam, these DPV cages, they come with a plastic concave that slides in and out. And I have had some trouble, and I've still not solved it yet. And the trouble I've had is this. Traditionally, I've always used sort of wood shavings in the concave area. And with the wooden concaves, I didn't have any trouble with this at all, just using shavings and having move things about, whatever he prefers. Some have cleaned the lot out, others leave some, and not had a problem. last year using these plastic concaves for the first time. The concave I found was much deeper. And I remember particularly one hen had laid and obviously numbered the egg and put it on the nest box card like you do. Went down the following day and this egg had disappeared. And I thought, oh, she eating eggs. But I couldn't see any trace of it. And I started feeling around in the concave, and buried in the wood shavings was the egg.
Okay.
So they were sinking below the shavings. So in some other nest boxes, I tried troppy bed. You heard of troppy bed?
Yeah, yeah, coconut husk, yeah.
Yeah. And so I put damp troppy bed in and pressed it down really hard into the concave, effectively to try and reduce the depth of the concave. That worked a bit better at first, but over a fairly short period of time, that troppy bed was drying out and turning to dust. So that didn't work either. Now, I have seen, obviously, on the internet and the forums and Facebook and all the good stuff that we've got now, I've seen photographs of the insides of some of these nest boxes with the plastic concave. And what people seem to be using is very coarse wood chips.
Easy bed. I must admit, that's what I use in those same grey SAM trays I've got in some of my BGS cages. Is that easy bed because it is coarser.
Yeah. I'm not keen on
sinkage.
It would stop the sinkage. Although I use a thing, or have used a thing called Easy Chip, which I think is the same as Easy Bed.
Yeah.
I'm not that keen on it. I'll tell you why. I don't know if you find this, but I've come across pieces in the way it's made up that have obviously got paint on it, as if it's been a smashed up pallet or something like that. And
really?
I've had it on more than one occasion. So yeah, it does need to be something like easy bed, but perhaps I was just unlucky with a couple of bags of easy bed I had. I don't know. Anyway.
There should be paint on it. Right, that's it's all. I was getting the impression it's kind of kiln dried and nice and clean, but yeah, smashed up pallets doesn't sound.
I'm not saying it was that. All I'm saying is certainly there were bits of wood there that I got paint on.
Yeah. Well, so it's been. I found it to be good stuff, but I should be inspecting mine now. I have my magnifying glass out after when we finish talking. Go and have a look. So in terms of so just very quickly, show cages. How important is show cage presentation? You can't really can you get away with a slightly discoloured show cage? How much of a difference does it make, do you think?
I think it's down to the judge.
Yeah.
Personally, I like to present my bird in the best way that I can. And I think the show cage is part of that presentation. I was going to tell you the name of the guy that I bought my show cages from. He was from Wales,
Basil
Thomas.
Basil Thomas.
Yeah.
He's passed away now, sadly, isn't he? But he was quite the character. I liked him.
Basil Thomas show cages, exceptional quality. I don't know what paint he used on the inside of the white paint, but the last years, and you can feel the difference in the weight of them if you pick up a Basil Thomas show cage compared to other manufacturers' cages. They're just heavier and a better cage. So I think we've got a duty to try and give our birds the best chance we can by putting them out in a decent show cage. Some of the show cages that you see on the show bench are not very good either, to be frank. But why is that? Is it because we're trying to get every bird out on the bench that we can to make the numbers up? I don't know. Could be one of the reasons. But personally, I think we've got a duty to the bird and to whoever's judging them to present the bird in the best way we can. And that includes the cage. And
I suppose if you want to be successful, the more professional you are, the you're giving yourself every chance of doing well. Then, aren't you? It's those small wins that all add up to helping you. So, just very quickly, plastic or Trespa cage, show cage. Do we need that? You don't have to. This doesn't have to be a long answer. Are you for it or against it, or are you quite ambivalent? You're not.
Very much. I'm very much for it. I found the reasons that Phil Rooney gave when he put his proposal forward in 2018 highly compelling. It made a lot of sense to me. You mentioned I've used the forum quite a bit. I also use other Facebook sites. I struggle to find the people who voted against it. There clearly are people that voted against it because it didn't get through. But I really struggle to find them. More people than not just tell me it's a no-brainer. And I did find one person, and I'm not going to name names, and his reason was an interesting one. And his reason was that he didn't want to introduce yet another cage with a sloping roof, because he felt that the way the hobby was going, then the birds were getting to such a size that the sloping roof on the show cage would have to go to accommodate the modern day budgerigar. So he wouldn't want to invest in any more cages at all, wooden ones or plastic ones, because he felt a change was coming. And that was an interesting point. I think it's one that we may well have to bear in mind as well going forward.
Well, there is a massive discussion to have as well, isn't it? Because it's all the staging would have to change. If you remove the slope, how do you carry the cage? I mean, someone said to me the other day, and obviously we don't want to have a completely different cage, because that means everyone's got to pretty much throw their cages away and start again, which would be really detrimental to the hobby. But is there any way that we can keep the cage as it is, but drop the perches down? Could we lower the rail? But then I suppose you've got the tail dropping along, dragging along on the floor, haven't you?
Possible, but personal opinion, I think we're coming to the time where we're going to have to change the standard and put a maximum size on the bird.
Okay.
That's what I feel, because if we let things to progress, such that the bird's so big that we can't accommodate it in a show cage, and say to everybody, you've got to change your show cages to whatever the new show cage is. I think that would be, you said detrimental. I think it would be devastating.
Catastrophic, wouldn't it? Yeah. But I think that it's a really good conversation, because if people do want, the top guys want, the edge over people is having the bigger birds, isn't it? Bigger, longer. It's it's hard to maintain. It's hard to stick into the birds. But if the birds do get much bigger, and we don't, as a hobby, form a consensus where we do set that limit, I think people need to realise now that in 5 or 10 years' time, that we are going to pretty much have to chuck our show cages in the bin and start again with a bigger one, aren't we? I don't see a way around it myself. I don't know what you think, on that.
As I say, I think the time is approaching, if not already here, where we need to look at the standard and say we need an upper limit in terms of the size of the exhibition that we get. That's just my personal opinion, but that will preserve the show cage. I think if we change the show cage to something radically different, such that every show cage we've got to throw on the bonfire or take down the pit and start again, I think that would be catastrophic for the
thing. It'd struggle to get back to where it is now, wouldn't it? I think we'd lose so many people. So, but I think as I say, I think it's important we have the discussion of not perhaps it's rule changes every 3 years with a little bit of discussion. I think we need to, led by the BS, where we have a proper debate about it over the course of 2 years, with lots of articles, lots of debate, online discussion in the magazine, and then have one big vote on it and try to put it to bed, because it does seem to be a bit disjointed, that discussion and that argument.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, but I don't believe that would stop us approving the Tresper showcase as promoted by Phil Wynne, because the proposal, as certainly as I understand it, is that the Tresper cage is not to replace the wooden. It's to allow the Tresper cage to be used alongside the existing wooden cage. So exhibitors will be allowed to use either. And on that basis, I really do not understand what the objection is. I've heard it said, we're talking about 3 millimeters difference in some of the measurements. Well, in my old money, that's 1/8 of an inch. And I don't think that's going to make a lot of difference. And you mentioned consultation. There's opportunity, and there has been opportunity over the past 3 years to actually engage with the judges that we have, to see what their experiences are and what their views are. And again, just hearing what I've heard so far is that plenty of them have said they would have no problem in judging a bird side by side, one in a Tresper cage, one in a wooden cage. In fact, they do that now in Ireland, I believe. Operate with the 2 cages. It's even potentially worse, if you want to call it worse, because I've seen videos of shows in South Africa where they've got wooden cages like the BS standard cage up alongside the new South African cage, which is just an all-wire cage available to buy as cheap as chips.
It's a £5 cage. I must admit, I'm trying to source one from South Africa so I can inspect it and do an article on it for cage birds, because I know I think Fred Wright talked about it in one of his articles the other day, and it's like, well, if it's a £5 you know, and they all stack. I've spoken to Fred, and he said they all the cages stack inside each other, all the bases stack.
Yeah.
You know, there's 4 clips. They don't fall apart necessarily in the car park. They're really, really sturdy, and they're a £5.
Yeah.
So, in terms of affordability, cleaning the things, I mean, I must admit, I'm quite traditional. I love our show cages, and I wouldn't want to see them change. But if you kind of really step back and take an objective view, you think, why am I spending 35 quid on a wooden cage that's going to be clunky, and I've got to store it and paint it? You know, I can use this plastic one. If I do break it, I chuck it away, and I can recycle it, buy another one. You know, it's safe for peanuts. So yeah, there's a debate there as well, isn't it? Maybe that's the way forward.
Maybe. I'm more in your camp. I was just using the South African cage as an example of how it's possible for judges to judge birds properly in different varieties of cages. Personally, I'm not a fan of the South African one yet. I'm a bit concerned that the birds will be able to get to each other, as it were, because there's no sides on them. But just coming back to the Tresper one, I do hope that we can get the membership to support it this time. I think it's something that we really should do.
Yeah, well, I gather Phil Reaney's proposed it again, so yeah, I'm sure he'll be looking for support. So he certainly got my vote for it. So
and mine.
So that's 2 anyway, and his is 3. So hopefully that's we're on our way with that. So I haven't asked you yet, with your varieties, what's your favourite variety of budgie? I'm always interested to know. But or you're not too fussed. You just like good budgies.
I like good budgies.
Yeah.
Got a soft spot for cinnamons because we had success with cinnamons back in the 1980s. I've recently started with lacewing.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I've been going up to see Tom Luke annually, and it's about the only time I can get the wife involved in budgies. She normally bores her to death. But if I take her up to Tom's wife Caroline does quite a bit with the gardening side of the.
They've got a fantastic garden, yeah.
So I can leave Teresa in Caroline's good hands and spend a good few hours with Tom. So really enjoyable time when we go up there. But obviously I saw lacewing when I was up at Tom and Andrews, and managed to persuade him to let me have a few. And so I've been reading lacewings now for probably four seasons, and I've got a long way to go yet, but I am making some progress. I mentioned my 12 breeding cages. I use 6 of those 12 cages associated with lacewings and lacewing splits. I don't pair lacewing to lacewing. I don't feel my lacewings are anywhere near good enough to do that. And Tom advised me that pairing lacewing to lacewing, you've got to be really careful. You can quickly lose size. So I try and pair my lacewings to normals, which is why also, of course, I need my other 6 cages breeding the normal varieties, so I've got something to put into the lacewing. But I'm enjoying playing about with them, and hope to continue to develop it.
Well, the lacewings at the Lukes are amazing. I mean, they've done so well with them, and in terms of a rare variety, they've I dread to think, I dread to think, but it'd be amazing to know just how many of their lace wings are in various flights and sheds around the country. I think they've, in terms of a pair of fancies really helping a variety along, I think they can really pat themselves on their back for a job well done in that regard. I know I've got a couple from them as well. It's they're so attractive.
Yeah, I bought a pair of Alan and Gina Adams.
Oh, okay.
And I think Gina's birds originated off Tom.
They went back as well, did they? Yeah. So yeah, but no, it's that's good. We have to think what else is struggling to get Tom and Andrew to start breeding them. They've obviously they've got the knack for making these rare varieties really, really brilliant.
Yeah. The advantage from my point of view is that, and I hope he doesn't change his mind now, but Tom's not been showing his lace wings at the Lancashire and Cheshire Area Society show.
Okay.
So I've picked up, but CC's there for the past 2 years with lace wings, but obviously if Tom and Andrews go, I can kiss those goodbye at the moment.
We have to, now Andrew's down near me, you'll have to just get them to all be sent down to Andrew, so they're out of your way. But I'm sure it's great good. So I'm sure you'll give if Tom does put them out, I'm sure you'll give him a good run for his money. So, right, let's talk about the EBF, because I spoke to Simon Devaney earlier today. So the EBF just celebrated its 10th anniversary, which we didn't pop up champagne with a big online party or anything, but we did. The few of us who have been involved in it just pat each other on the back and congratulate one another. So, and I'd like to go on record now as saying to everyone who's had a hand in making the form so successful, in particular Mick and Simon, how well they've done to get something off the ground and to make it so successful. When I spoke to Simon today, I commented to him, and he was in agreement that probably there's been some real people who have contributed to the forum on a regular basis and really sort of driven the topics along. And the likes of yourself and David Randall, people like that, have really helped make it a success. How do you feel about the forum? I know you're, as I say, you're regular on there. Has it made a massive difference to you and your time in the hobby?
It made a massive difference to me when I was starting back in 2012. I came across the forum and I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't get enough of it. Being able to ask questions, get answers from all sorts of people, the search facility to be able to look at things like, for example, bird room setup. Photographs of the insides of people's bird rooms and what they've done with them and how they've arranged stuff. The resource is like Encyclopedia Britannica for budget. It was just amazing. And then you couple that with the fact that certainly in those days, you've got like EBF roving reporters going around to all the top shows, and the results and even photographs of the winning exhibits were appearing on the forum up pretty close to real time. It was fantastic. And I've tried to be a big supporter of the forum. I think it's a tremendous resource. I just don't understand why everybody's not on it, but there you go. I think it's suffered over recent times. And I put a post on myself maybe only a few days ago now. And it's suffered because I think there's been people coming onto the forum. I don't think they're there any longer, who would quickly criticise or take a point of view on a post that was put up there, or most posts that were put up there on any one day. And sometimes it become a little personal, sometimes aggressive. And that, in my opinion, put a lot of people off in posting. And certainly my input into the forum diminished during that time. And I think it's down to all of us now to try and get it back to how it was. And I think I finished my post off the other day by saying, note to self, try harder. Because it is a tremendous result, and we do need to keep it going. And I'd like to express my congratulations to everybody that's been involved in the forum and what we've done over the past 10 years. My heart goes off to you guys. I think it's tremendous.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. And it's funny when you said you couldn't get enough of it. I know there was a point when there was a point with the forum when it was at its real zenith, sort of the second, third, around about 2013, 14, when it was really, it was really roaring at that point. And I knew how brilliant I thought it was when I think there was a thread about sinks, and people were just putting pictures of their sinks up, and I had to stop because I was so excited looking at this thread, thinking, John, it's just a sink. But I didn't have a sink at the time. I wanted one, and I wasn't happy until I got one. So, yeah. So, but it, as you say, it's brilliant that it as a resource. There's so much there. Yeah. And I looked today. There's 2 or 3 new members this week, and I'm sure some people contribute a lot, others don't contribute, some dip in and out, but it's still, people are still picking up little tidbits of information, and that's good to know. And I think it will continue, but we do need to whip people back. And I think there was a large element of that was when we decided we were going to do these interviews, was just reinvigorate it in a different way, to make the offer different. So so as I say, here's to another 10 years, and hopefully not so many ups and downs. A nice smooth passage. So when you feed your seed, hoppers or trays of seed, what do you prefer? What works best?
So in the flights, I use large stainless steel dishes. My seed mixture, again, sticking to the simple. I use hate seed. I use a mix called a Bravo mix, which is very similar to a mix that used to be very popular in the 1980s called Trill. So Trill used to be available in 20 kilo or 25 kilo packs, and a number of top breeders used it religiously at that time. And I've tried all sorts since I've come back into the hobby, all types of different seeds. But I've settled now on Ace Bravo. It is more expensive, yes, but my birds seem to do well on it, and I feed it in stainless steel dishes. I also have a separate dish for hydroponic seed, and they get both every day. In terms of the breeding cages, I use Rivers Way seed hoppers that fit on the outside of the cage. Makes it simple in terms of me topping up. So I'm only going into the breeding cage to change the grid, the phonics, small vicious phonic seed, or when I'm providing software.
Okay. And yeah, I suppose the river's way, because they're outside, it's just one less disturbance for the birds, isn't it? And it's easy for you as well. And
That's right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, we've talked about aviary visits, and obviously, you've enjoyed those. And for beginners, how key are those as part of their budgie learning experience? Would you say?
I'd say they're almost vital, because they've got to learn what they're looking for, and compare different birds from different clubs. Like, they can see birds on the show bench, and obviously get an impression and be told what a good bird is. But we talked about going up to Tom Luke's. Going up to Tom Luke's or Terry and Linda Dukes and seeing the range of birds that they've got actually in their flights is a totally different experience than just looking at birds in showcases. As I say, I came back down here not many years ago now, and I've been one or two times to Alan Marchant. And you go and look at some of the birds that Alan's got, the quality running throughout. Sometimes you don't quite appreciate how good the birds are until you start taking one or two out of the flight and then putting them in the showcase. But it's not just getting the beginner's eye in to what's a good bird. It's how they keep it. The tips that these people just want to give you, the whole learning experience. I think that's what makes the visit so good. You make friends. You're then welcome back again. That's important. And usually aviary visits are arranged by clubs, and you get the social aspect of that we spoke about before.
You like those club trips, do you? You prefer going in a big gaggle of you rather than just one or two in a car? I must admit, usually my trips are one or two in a car, so it's I'm interested to know.
It depends who you're with, John, doesn't it?
Well, this is true. You know who I drive about with.
I'm sure you'll check that on,
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think those club visits.
I like the organised trips where maybe a number of cars go from the club, and they perhaps stay overnight in a hotel. Visit a few aviaries in the area over the weekend. It's all good stuff.
Have you done any trips over to the continent? Or have you just stayed within the UK?
Not me personally. I haven't. No, I've found there's plenty of places to go in the UK.
And what do you think of the European birds? Is it too extreme? At its worst, I mean, obviously there's different levels, different.
At its worst, I suppose, yes. I mentioned earlier, I think size, shape, balance, and deportment are really top for me in terms of what I'm looking for. And I'm not that impressed with birds that look at porcupine heads, things sticking out all up. The gold type head, or maybe the square that got type head with everything filled in. I don't know. It's everybody to their own, and that's a good thing about the hobby as well. We put our birds out the best we can, we put them before the judge of the day, and the judge of the day will choose the birds that he or she wants. And that's the beauty of the hobby for me, and there's no use us getting upset about it one way or another. The judge chooses the birds they want to choose, and I'm very much for letting the judge judge. You know, I'm not too sure why we need to start piling in regulations. You know, we've got a good judges training scheme, from how I understand it, and judges who are qualified should be allowed to judge. You know, you get big debates over flecking. Let the judge judge. Don't disqualify fleck birds. And you know, there's a big debate now over long flights. To me, again, let the judge judge. And if the bird thinks that bird isn't in balance because it's got too long a tail or flights are too long and cross, that judge can see that. Let him decide, or her decide, what to do with that bird. And I don't see why we need to be banning birds from the show bench. I think we should let the judge do.
Fair enough. And I quite agree. So, skipping to something completely different, biosecurity. How big are you on biosecurity in your bird shed? Some people are like fanatical about it. You know, they've got mats with F10 that you have to, you know, you're changing shoes. Are you?
No, I'm not in that category.
Okay.
I do have some hand gel, or mainly a foam. I use a company called Safe for. Safe and the number 4. They do disinfectants.
I've tried that. That's brilliant stuff. Yeah, DEFRA approved. Yeah.
And they do like a hand foam. And I certainly use it before going into nest boxes and that sort of stuff. But I'm not a fanatic on it. I like my bird room to be tidy, reasonably clean, but I'm not a clinically clean specialist, if you want to call it that way. That's where I am with it, John. I don't have mats outside, and I don't make people to take their shoes off before they go in the bird room.
They don't have to don a white suit. Do you wear a dust mask when you're cleaning your birds out? That's something I've been discussing with people recently.
Yeah.
Do you worry about the dust on the birds sort of affecting you longer term, or?
I think with the small number of birds that I've got, it's not a massive concern to me.
Okay.
Actually, I did buy some masks with the intention of wearing them when I was cleaning out the bird. I think I only wore it once, and I thought, bloody hell, I can't be doing with this. But I've got specs on, I've got hearing aids, and then putting a dust mask on as well wasn't great. So I found another use for them now, of course. I use them now when I go to a shop. So they're being used that way.
Excellent. And do you have air extraction in your bird hut? Do you?
Yeah. So I've got one extractor fan at the end. I don't have a fan bringing air in.
Okay.
I've got a window that opens at one end to let air in, and extraction to an extractor fan at the other. And I've also got an air bath, one air bath that I use to take some of the dust out of the air. And I also use an ionizer, which is on 24/7, which makes the dust a little bit heavier.
Mhm.
So it drops to the floor rather than floating around in the air.
Okay. I know ionisers were funny. They were massive in the 80s, weren't they? And they did, and then you don't see them so much now. But they work well for you.
I still use one, and
Yeah.
I think it has some advantages. Yeah, I use it.
Absolutely. Okay, I have to have a look into those. Maybe there's one thing I haven't got. Maybe it's someone else for me to get after Christmas. So just very quickly, what's the hardest feature to put on a showbird, would you think?
Oh, I think
I know it's
backstall's hard.
okay.
It's difficult. It's difficult with backstall. I think if you've not got it, depth and mast is that easy. But once you've got it, I think it's quite easy to maintain it. But backstall, I think it's quite difficult, and it's easy to lose.
Okay, that was my next question. You're jumping ahead of me there.
Okay.
But yeah, but again, they're key because they make such a difference to the bird, don't they? And it's and you don't realise you've lost it, that you're losing it until it's gone, don't you? And then it's very apparent. So okay, well that's interesting. And what's your favourite feature of the show, Budgie? What is it going to be? Back skull or?
I'm not sure I'm answering this question properly because it depends what you mean by feature. I like a bird that shows it.
Okay.
I like a bird that with a bit of swank, that stands properly on the perch and says to the judge, "I'm here," you know.
Yeah.
That's what I really love about good exhibition budgies. I don't like birds slouching about all over the perch, and yeah, I like a bit of swan. So I'm not sure if that's a feature.
I think that is a feature. No, I do. I think character and swank is a feature. It is a hard thing to convey unless you've seen it. And I think this is why a lot of beginners should go to the club show or bigger shows, because you hear these terms cobbiness and swank and deportment and style. Yeah. I don't know, when I first came in the hobby, I was like, what? You get the dictionary out thinking, well, all right, okay, I've got a rough idea, but until you've seen it and you think, right, okay, that's truly what it is. And swank's a funny old sort of hackneyed word, isn't it? But it's an old fashioned, but it's true. If you get a bird with plenty of swank, it's worth its weight in gold, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Right, so in March of next year, we've got the next round of elections for the General Council.
Yeah.
I understand your standing. Is that right?
My nomination's gone in.
Good.
I've not had the confirmation letter back yet, but I'm not expecting any trouble. I've followed the rules absolutely religiously, make sure that everything on my nomination is correct. And I'm going to stand. If you'd have asked me 12 months ago, will you be standing at the pre-election against General Council elections, I'd have said no. But I'm determined to give it a go now.
And what area are you in? So you're not South Midlands. Remind us again.
So I'm in now Lancashire, Cheshire, North Wales area. Even though my postal address is Stoke-on-Trent. Stoke-on-Trent, of course, is in Staffordshire. It just happens to be the postal area that covers where I am. but I live in a village called Roadheath, and Roadheath is in Cheshire.
You're in Cheshire.
So I have checked with the BS which area I'm in, and they confirmed to me that I'm in Lancashire and Cheshire area.
Brilliant. And so, obviously, we talked about your. We asked you, well, it wasn't as part of this question, but obviously, you've had you've been in partnership, you've been around a long time, you've had some successes. You've obviously with your business career, you're highly qualified and you've been very successful. So, on top of all that, what else would you bring to the General Council? It's because I think it does need freshening up with some new faces, new ideas. So, what are you able to say that for what else you think you'd bring personally?
So, to me, I think that we've got to stop the decline in the hobby, and we need to increase the membership of the Budgerigars Society, and hopefully get more people involved in exhibiting their birds. To do that is not simple, and I think through my business side, then what is badly needed, assuming a new council or a changed council next spring, then there's 3 years to make a difference. And I think we need to be setting some clear objectives and goals of what the Budgerigar Society needs to look like in 3 years' time from now, to be able to measure whether with a success or a failure for that during that General Council period. And to me, there's great potential out there in terms of increasing the members. I know some people don't like social media and don't like Facebook and don't like this and don't like that. Well, it's a real eye-opener if you do embrace it. I found a site, or I was directed towards a site on Facebook called, I think it's called Budgie Lovers UK. Now these are pet people. They've got about 4,000 members. They have about 60 people joining a day. And I thought, oh God, what an opportunity here. And it ties in with the question I've been asking myself when I go to Stafford. Don't live too far away from Stafford. They have a number of events on. You go to Stafford, the halls are full of people involved in aviculture, buying birds, buying equipment, buying all sorts of stuff. And you can stand at Stafford sort of on one of the balconies and see everything that's going on. And I've often asked myself the question, people say, our hobby's dying. Who are all these people down here? Where are they from? Where are they going to? And so we need to try and get some of the pet keepers involved in the Budgerigar Society, and hopefully a few of those will then get bitten by the exhibition Budgerigar bug and start up. But it's no use going to try and get those people now, in my opinion, because we're not offering them anything. We're certainly not offering them any value for money. And so I think we need to be setting an action plan out. I think we seriously need to undertake a thorough expenditure review, because this hobby has shrunk. You know, we were talking earlier of the club show having 5,000 birds. Now it's got 2,000 birds. I don't know how many thousand members it used to have in 1980, but 20 more thousand more than we've got today. And the clock needs to be trimmed to how the hobby is today. And then you can start making inroads into how you provide value for money. And, you know, there's plenty of good ideas. Andy Eden's article recently in Cambridge about tiered membership. That's got to be part of it. It must be, in terms of trying to get some of these people on board. And there's a lot of work to be done. But unless we set ourselves some objectives and consult with the members, so the members are on board with those objectives of where you want to get to in 3 years, then you've not got a chance. But you just bumble along and hardly achieve anything in 3 years. Perhaps a bit like we've got over the past 3 years.
Yeah, I think I know people have said, oh, it's, you know, it's if you do try and start debate online, you'll get a lot of people will push back and say, look, it's a hobby, I'm not really interested, you know, and they see some things as very political, and they just switch off. But I think, particularly at the top level, we've got to be I'm not saying that the general counsel at the minute aren't professional. That would be grossly unfair of me. But I think in everything we do, in how we promote the hobby, all of us, general counsel, you know, people running clubs, we do have to be as professional as we can, just to stand our hobby out from others, don't we? Because we're not just competing against the canaries and, you know, and the pigeon people and others in aviculture. You know, there's so many hobbies and pastimes in the UK that's what we're up against, haven't we? So I think you're quite right. Our offering as a hobby's got to be perceived as something really, really attractive, and, you know, something that people really want to do.
Yeah. And it's going to be harder, I think, particularly coming through what we're going through at the moment. There's going to be people losing their jobs. There's going to be people with less disposable income, and the times are going to be tough. And we've got to recognise that and work with it, and still to retain people and attract people into the hobby and provide value for money.
You're right. I think next year is going to be tough, and, you know, there's been some debate online this weekend about, you know, people renewing all their subs and buying their rings. I know my single member subs and 60 odd rings for next year is, you know, it's over 50 quid, and, you know, that's spread across the year. It's £1 a week. But if you've got a number of societies that you join, you know, some people, if they go to the club show and rejoin all their clubs, you know, it runs into, you know, three figures. It's a lot of money for people. So I think they're not going to join. There'll be membership drop-offs just because people genuinely cannot afford, as they tighten their belts, to join these clubs. So, you know, I think, do you not agree that we need to look at, you know, how, you know, whether it's join the BS, you automatically get a membership of your area society as well, just to get people into, you know, so they get a bit more for their money, and maybe the BS spread the wealth a little bit amongst the area societies, and help them more.
Maybe. I don't think I'm at the point yet where I could say, yeah, I'm fully behind that. I think until you started to understand what is affordable, what the society actually needs to run, and get rid of any fat in terms of that expenditure, then it's all too easy to say, you know, we do this or we do that. That needs to be understood. And then what are the key goals that we need to be at in 3 years' time? And whether those goals include having the area societies as part of the sort of combined membership of the BS, we'll see where that ranks in terms of the priorities. But it's a good idea, but there will be other good ideas as well.
Absolutely. But I think the key thing you've said this evening for me is that, you know, whatever the next general council, whoever it consists of, it's really important that they have us all behind them. You know, whether we're on it or they're, you know, whoever's on it. You know, they've got to take the membership with us. I think at the minute they haven't got that, and that's the one thing that's got to change, isn't it? One way or another now. It's and get everyone to buy into where they're going. But surely that starts with having a plan, doesn't it? We've got to have a firm, fixed plan that is sold as part of the election, and then people buy into it and say, right, that's what we want. Now go and execute it.
Yeah, it's difficult to do it as part of the election. I think you can put forward ideas and philosophies that you believe in terms of the direction you would like to go. I think it's a different thing when you're actually there in council and see the whole picture.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You're going to be governed and constrained by expenditure. But there's ways to generate more income. You know, Mid-Essex at the moment doing this fantastic online raffle. I don't know how much that's going to raise, but it's going to raise a few bob.
Well, it was $7,000 last year they raised,
So there's all sorts of things that are possible. You know, this might be a bit controversial, but I'll throw it in the pot. We're members of the World Budgerigars Organization. I'm not sure what we get out of being members of the World Budgerigars Organization. I'd like to understand what those benefits are. But that must cost us money. I don't know how much, because I've not got any visibility, but it must cost us money. There's hard decisions got to be made. Is it better to use that money to get more people into the hobby in this country? Perhaps, say, by giving juniors free entries or no membership for free. Is it better doing that, or paying whatever it is, or how much it costs to maintain our involvement in the World Budgerigars Organization? Those are some of the decisions, I think, that are going to have to be made if we go forward.
Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, we've been a member of that for at least 25 years now, haven't we? And you know, when you look at the kind of cost-benefit analysis, you know, many thousands, I think, have gone to the WBO, and I'm like you, I don't know the precise figure, but have we got enough out of it? Yeah, I agree. But again, this is up to people to sell, isn't it? And to get the membership behind again, mini referendum maybe on it, and just work out if that's what we want for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I think there's great opportunities to consult with members much more. You know, I'm not quite sure what's happening in many areas because of such a lack of visibility. You know, I know a new website's coming, a new BS website. I've been told it's coming for a long time now. I'm still waiting for it. But we mustn't throw out the good stuff as well. You know, the things like shows receiving patronage, the judges training scheme. No matter what you think in terms of the BS Club show, and yes, there's no doubt maybe it can be improved, but it's a great show. It's a great show, and we need to retain all those good things as well. So it's not a matter, I think, of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and almost starting from scratch. But we need a plan. We definitely need a plan of how we're going to improve the hobby going forward for the next 2 years, and to, at the very least, retain what we've got in terms of membership, but hopefully increase it.
And grow it, absolutely. You're quite right. I mean, I had 2 questions here for you. It was, what do we do well and what do we need to improve? And you've probably answered that there. That with the club show is top draw. When I interviewed Martin Halen, he said, other countries are really envious of it. They haven't got a hobby the size of ours, and we are blessed. So you're right. I think sometimes we can be a bit too down. We have got to down on ourselves, and it's important to perhaps stop and acknowledge that there's a lot of good stuff going on. But that being said, there are areas where we've got to keep up. We've got to move on, haven't we? So for the betterment of the hobby.
Yeah, you see, young people today want different things to what we wanted. I'm talking my generation. They're a different generation, and you've got to appeal to them, and you've got to embrace social media and online technology. It's how they work. It's how they live. You can't ignore it. You've got to embrace it.
But generally, it's like music. Everyone likes music and dancing, don't they? The fundamentals of that hasn't changed. It's just how people take it, and and how they receive it, and how they interact with it, and that's people. As you say, aviculture is a wonderful thing. That's not going to change. People are always going to want it, but you've got to. Do you think that is how we offer it? Is the key, isn't it? Now, it's not 1970 anymore. It is 2020, and we've got to. We've got to present it and offer it to people in a completely different way.
That is true. That is true. Kids today, they're online. Online is their life. It doesn't mean that they can't keep budgeting or don't, or of a mindset where they don't want to keep it. But to engage them, you've got to be keeping budgets online with them,
Absolutely.
giving them the online facilities. Things like tonight. Kids love this one. The forum you mentioned, they lock that up, and that's how the BS needs to be providing its facilities going forward, to be able to engage with those people.
Well, I think as well, what if we've learnt anything, and I mean, you speak to a lot of people in the hobby, and there's people out there within our membership with so many skills, and I think it's important that the General Council going forward and clubs really embrace people who have got this knowledge and this experience, and the know-how. But we don't necessarily have to buy it in. I think it is there in the hobby, website design, and you've got Ricky Anderson pulling all the strings in the background doing these for us, haven't we? And making it go live and streaming it for everybody. So those guys are there. It doesn't have to cost us a lot. We've just got to look after them and sort of bring them into the fold and get them working. So they are there.
We need to reach out to the membership and exploit the talent that we've got there.
Absolutely. So I'm going to wrap it up. That all got a bit political, so that was really good to hear. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And I suppose you've only got, what was it, 150 words in the BS magazine, so that was a little bit extra for you to tell people a bit about yourself and what you'd like to achieve, which I think they'll want to know. You know, they need to know, and they can't do it. None of the new candidates can do that in 150 words. It's nothing, is it?
A bit of a challenge, I find.
It is very challenging, yeah.
Even with all my experience.
So a few fun questions at the end. Who are your Budgerigars heroes? You don't necessarily have to have met them, but who would you say? Yeah, who are your heroes? Who would you like to have met or you have met?
Well, we start with Harry Bryan. I guess at the start, I wouldn't mind with meeting him. I never did. I think in modern day, I've not met him, even though we've been to the pub show a few times. You know, clearly Daniel Lutoff is somebody who's right up there at the top of the hobby. I wouldn't mind an hour's chat with him. But I think I'll leave it at that, John, really.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who else I could say without embarrassing people.
But that's a good answer. That's a good answer. So what's the best bit of advice you've ever been given in the budgie fancy?
The best advice?
Yeah.
Well, I thought you said these were fun questions.
They are fun questions.
The best advice.
Best advice. You'll have to say got it off the Exhibition Budgerigar forum. We'd actually done.
Yeah.
It's probably a fair bet you did.
Joining the EDF is definitely one of them. I guess don't be too quick to hand over the money you've got in your pocket. Make sure you're getting what you really want for the money.
Excellent. Mike, I think we'll close it there. That's been just over 2 hours. Wow. Fantastic. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for being so honest and candid. And I say good luck with the GC elections. Personally, you've got my vote, and I'm sure lots of people will get behind you. And the very best of luck next year. And thank you very much on behalf of the Exhibition Budgerigar Forum.
Thanks very much, John. Really
Lovely.
Thank you.
That's great. You take care. Cheers.
Bye.